Okay.
Okay, so we have our resin poured, and we are now ready to pre-preg our wet lay out our resin onto our fabric sheet, and then lay it up into our tool, complete our vacuum bag, and put it into the oven. So we'll do all of those processes. What we have here is a unique way to do some wet lay by doing a pseudo pre-preg. So it's two pieces of vacuum bag. I'm just going to peel back one layer of the vacuum bag here, which exposes the fabric. This is glass fabric. In this case, could be carbon fabric or Kevlar, but we're going to do glass today. There's a piece of vacuum on the bottom here, which actually has our ply shapes cut in the bottom. You'll see this later. The very first thing we're going to do is we are going to start mixing our resin. So we're going to pour the part B into the part A, stir it up for a couple minutes, and then pour the whole thing back into the B cup, stir that up for a couple minutes, and then start pre-pregging our sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and start our timer right now so that we can stir for about 5 minutes. So with the timer on, we will pour part B into part A, and this will start the chemical reaction of the resin hardening. So we'll use the sticks here to get everything out of this cup. There we go. Spilling a little bit. And then I'll go ahead and start mixing up part A and part B in one cup here. And I'm watching my time to stir this for about 1 minute to 2 minutes before I transfer it back over to the other cup. I'm stirring so as to not try and not introduce as many air bubbles or as much air, as little air as possible. So we don't want to whip, we just want to stir. And we're about 1 minute in there, so now I'm going to transfer it back to the original cup to get the full mixture. So this is what's called a 2-cup mixing process. This way I make sure that all the material gets mixed in. Get as much of the material as I can out of this cup. I will also comment that you see that I am wearing my nitrile gloves. You should always be wearing your nitrile gloves when you're dealing with the resin system. And now I'll mix it back in the part 2 cup. And we're at about 3 minutes in, so at about 5 minutes is where you want, should be enough mixing. I'm going to close that door for me. Okay, so we're about 4 minutes in right now. My mixture, my resin looks pretty mixed up. I'm pretty happy with it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start the wet lay process. We're going to pour strips of the resin out, and we're going to use our sweep here to sweep the resin to completely wet out the fabric. So I'm going to go ahead and start pouring strips of my resin here. We'll make one more strip maybe here. I should be able to get a third piece of it in. And then I just try and get as much of the resin out of the cup here as I possibly can with my stick, and laying it on the fabric cloth here. Okay, very good. I'm happy with that. Now we're going to take our sweeps here and get as much of that resin off of this stick as I possibly can. And we're going to start our pre-pregging process. So the way that I like to do it is I take half of one line up, half of the line down. I'll probably take a lot of this up since I have the other lines here. So I'll start moving the resin up and out, right? And then I'll start going across. Just kind of start to, got to hold it down a little bit here while I'm wetting out this resin. And you can see it's fairly easy to start wetting out the entire resin. I'm going to move half of this line up. Move the other half down. And we'll wet out the remainder of this with our sweep here. Move all of this up, and we'll move the other half down. And now we're going to sweep side to side. And you can see that I still have plenty of resin here. I'm trying to get the middle of the fabric totally wetted out. That's where my ply shapes are going to be cut from, not from the edges. The edges are can remain dry because I'm not going to be cutting any ply shapes from those areas. Although we do want to try and wet out the entire fabric as much as possible. Okay, at this point I pretty much have all of my resin that I have swept out onto the fabric. Now I'm going to overlay my top piece of vacuum bag here. And a little technique that I learned is to just take a foam paint roller and to use that to continue to try and wet out the remainder and get a nice even wetting of the fibers. The reason we use the foam is so that it doesn't crush or damage the glass or carbon or Kevlar fiber, whichever it is. But that's doing a fairly good job of wetting out the entire plate here. There you go. Okay, so now that I'm completely wet out, if I flip this over, what you'll see that I have here is that you can see that I have the ply shapes cut into drawn onto the backside of the vacuum bag here, so I can just simply take a pair of scissors and I can start cutting this out. So we're making a 12 by 12 panel here. So 8 plies of fiberglass. So I have 2 of these. Another colleague of mine is making another sheet back over there. So I'm just cutting along the lines of the ply shapes here. There we go. Couple more trims here. Okay. Good. And there's one complete ply shape, 12 by 12 panel again. All 0.90. We're not going to lay up any 45, so this is just going to be an all 0.90. There's ply number 2. 3 and 4 coming up here. There's ply 3. And here is ply 4. 5, 6, 7, and 8 are being done by my colleague behind us here, so we will have all 8 plies when we're done. Okay, so now that I have my all of my plies here, they're protected with the vacuum bag, so it's actually fairly easy to start the layup process onto the call plate. So you basically remove one side of the sheet. Go ahead and put that in the trash can, and then lay down your ply centered on your call plate here. And then take off the other half of the vacuum bag. So this process keeps what is typically a very messy wet lay process, keeps it fairly clean. Okay, and I just continue doing this for all 8 plies. So we take off the first layer here. And then I'll go ahead and lay that on top of the other one that I had just laid up here. And go ahead and remove the next layer. So this is reminiscent, this process here is reminiscent of a typical pre-preg. We actually turned the wet lay process into a pseudo pre-preg process here by using the vacuum bag sheets to as the backing films for these layers. So trick that I learned from someone at university. So we can lay up this ply here. There we go. And got my 4th one here.